The lawyer slid the will across the mahogany table with a sympathetic smile. My father had been dead for 6 days. My ex-wife Vanessa sat across from me, dabbing her eyes with a tissue, playing the grieving daughter-in-law perfectly. Then he read the first line, and my blood turned to ice. I, Robert Mitchell, being of sound mind, leave my entire estate to Vanessa Mitchell, the only person who truly cared for me in my final years. My father despised Vanessa. He told me to divorce her 3 years before I finally did. And now, according to this will, he'd left her everything: the house, the business, the investments, $4 million in assets, and cut me out completely. Let me tell you how my ex-wife tried to steal my inheritance using a forged will, and how a bank security camera destroyed her entire scheme. Before we get into this story, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Trust me, you don't want to miss what happens next. This channel is all about exposing betrayal and serving cold, calculated justice. Now let's get into it. The perfect father. My name is Ethan. I'm 36 years old. My father, Robert Mitchell, was a self-made man. Started with nothing, built Mitchell Construction from the ground up, turned it into a $15 million company. He was tough, fair, and brutally honest. If he didn't like you, you knew it. He absolutely didn't like Vanessa. I met Vanessa when I was 28. She was a paralegal at a law firm my father occasionally used. Beautiful, charming, ambitious. We dated for a year, got married, and for the first 2 years, everything seemed fine. Then I started noticing things. Money disappearing from our joint account. Designer bags she claimed were gifts from friends. Her working late 3-4 nights a week at the law firm. My father noticed too. That woman's using you, he told me over beers one night. She married you for access to this family. Mark my words. I defended her, made excuses, said he was being paranoid. 6 months later, I found out she'd been having an affair with one of the senior partners at her firm, a married man, 20 years older than her. She wasn't working late. She was in hotel rooms, planning a future that didn't include me. I filed for divorce. Nasty, brutal, 8-month battle. She tried to take half of everything, including assets I'd inherited from my mother who'd passed when I was 25. My father paid for the best divorce attorney in the state. We crushed her. She got nothing except her personal belongings and a used Honda Civic. She stood outside the courthouse after the final hearing and said something I'll never forget. Your father thinks he won. He has no idea what's coming. I thought it was just angry talk, bitterness from losing. I should have paid more attention. After the divorce, my father and I grew closer. I started working at Mitchell Construction full-time, learning the business from him. He talked about succession planning, about making sure everything was set up for when he was gone. You're my only son, he'd say. Everything I built for you. This company, this legacy, it's yours, just don't screw it up. We had those conversations over lunch, over site visits, over weekend fishing trips. He was 68, healthy, active. We thought we had years. Then 8 months ago, he had a massive stroke, collapsed at a job site, dead before the ambulance arrived. The grief was overwhelming, sudden, no chance to say goodbye, no final words, just gone. The funeral was packed. Contractors, business partners, employees, friends. I stood at the front, numb, trying to process that my father was actually gone. And there in the third row sat Vanessa. I hadn't seen her in 3 years, not since the divorce. She wore black, appropriate makeup, sad expression. She approached me after the service. Ethan, I'm so sorry. Your father was a good man. I know we had our differences, but I wanted to pay my respects. I was too grief-stricken to be angry, too tired to make a scene. I nodded. She left. I thought that was the end of it. 3 days later, I got a call from Gerald Hampton, my father's estate attorney. "Ethan, we need to schedule the will reading. Can you come to my office Friday at 2 p.m? Of course, it's just me, right? Dad didn't have any other family. Pause. Actually, there's one other beneficiary listed. Your ex-wife, Vanessa. The room spun. What? Vanessa Mitchell. She's named in the will. I'm required by law to notify all beneficiaries. That's impossible. My father hated her. Why would she be in his will? I can't discuss the contents until the reading. Friday, 2 p.m. Both of you need to be present." Friday arrived. I sat in Gerald Hampton's office, my stomach in knots. Vanessa walked in 10 minutes late, wearing a conservative navy dress, carrying a leather folder. She sat across from me, gave me a small, sad smile. "This must be so hard for you." I didn't respond. Gerald cleared his throat. "Let's begin. This is the last will and testament of Robert James Mitchell, dated March 15th of this year." March 15th, 4 months before my father died, when he was perfectly healthy. Gerald began reading. The first section detailed small bequests: 20,000 to his longtime secretary, 50,000 split among his favorite charities, standard stuff. Then came the primary estate. To Vanessa Mitchell, my former daughter-in-law, I leave the entirety of my remaining estate, including but not limited to my primary residence at 847 Oak Ridge Drive, all shares and ownership interests in Mitchell Construction, all investment accounts, all bank accounts, and all personal property. She has been a devoted companion and caregiver during my final years, and I trust her to steward my legacy appropriately. Silence. I couldn't breathe, couldn't process what I just heard. Gerald continued. To my son, Ethan Mitchell, I leave my personal watch collection and my fishing gear with the hope that he will remember our time together. Vanessa dabbed her eyes with a tissue. Robert was so generous. I tried to tell him this was too much, but he insisted. He said you'd understand, Ethan, that you'd moved on with your life and didn't need his money. I found my voice. It came out as a whisper. This is fake. Excuse me, Gerald looked up. That will is fake. My father would never leave his estate to Vanessa. He despised her. This is impossible. Vanessa's voice was gentle, patient. Ethan, I know this is shocking, but your father and I reconciled after your divorce. He reached out to me. We became close. He was lonely. You were always working, building your own life. I was there for him. You're lying. I have emails, text messages, photos of us at lunch at his house. He welcomed me back into his life, Ethan. I'm sorry you didn't know, but it's the truth. Gerald intervened. Ethan, I understand this is difficult, but this will is properly executed. Signed, witnessed, notarized. If you wish to contest it, that's your right, but legally it appears valid. Who were the witnesses? Gerald checked the document. A woman named Patricia Reeves and a man named David Chen. I'd never heard either name. I want to speak to them. That's your prerogative. Their contact information is filed with the will. Vanessa stood. Gerald, thank you. Ethan, I know this is painful, but your father's wishes were clear. I hope in time you can accept this. She walked out, leaving me sitting there shattered. If you're not subscribed yet, do it now, because what happens next is going to blow your mind. Hit that bell icon too. You don't want to miss the next story. I didn't accept it. I couldn't. I called my attorney, Marcus Chen, no relation to the witness, apparently. He'd handled my divorce. He was a pit bull in a suit. Marcus, my ex-wife, just inherited my father's entire estate. I need you to destroy this will. Walk me through it. I told him everything, the will reading, the date, the fact that my father hated Vanessa, the mysterious witnesses. First thing, get a copy of the will and all supporting documents. Second, I'm hiring a forensic document examiner. Third, we're interviewing those witnesses. If that will is forged, we'll prove it. Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus worked fast. The document examiner, Dr. Sarah Portman, analyzed the will, the signature, the paper, the ink. Her preliminary report was inconclusive. The signature appears consistent with other samples of your father's writing, but there are some irregularities I want to explore further. The ink pressure varies in unusual ways. I need more time. Meanwhile, Marcus tracked down the witnesses. Patricia Reeves was a notary public who worked at a UPS store. We met her at a coffee shop. Do you remember notarizing a will for Robert Mitchell in March? She pulled out her notary journal. March 15th. Yes, I notarized a document at the UPS store. A woman brought in an older man. He signed, I witnessed, I notarized. What did the man look like? Older, maybe late 60s, grey hair, glasses. Did he seem coherent, alert? He seemed fine, a little quiet. The woman did most of the talking. What woman? She said she was his daughter-in-law. Brunette, well-dressed, very polite. She explained he needed the will notarized for estate planning. My jaw clenched. Vanessa. Did you verify his identity? Patricia hesitated. She showed me his driver's license. I checked it against his face. It looked like him. But you're not sure. Look, I notarize dozens of documents a week. I do my due diligence, but I'm not a detective. He had ID he signed, I notarized. That's my job. David Chen, the second witness, was harder to find. Turned out he was Vanessa's cousin. When Marcus finally reached him by phone, he refused to talk without a lawyer present. That told us everything we needed to know. Marcus dug deeper into Vanessa's activities around March 15th. He pulled her credit card records, legally obtained through discovery requests. On March 14th, she'd made purchases at a costume supply store and a printing shop. On March 15th, the day of the will signing, she'd been in the same city as the UPS store where Patricia worked, not even close to where my father lived. She wasn't with your father that day, Marcus said. She was at that UPS store with someone pretending to be him. An impersonator. Exactly. Someone who looked enough like your father to fool a notary who'd never met him. Probably an actor. We need to prove it. Then Marcus had a breakthrough. Your father banked at First National, right? Yeah, for 40 years. Did he have a safety deposit box? I think so. Why? Because if your father had a real will, and I'm betting he did, he probably kept it there. We went to First National Bank the next day. I provided my father's death certificate and proof that I was his son. The bank manager, a woman named Linda Torres, pulled up his records. Yes, Mr. Mitchell had a safety deposit box, number 447. He'd had it since 1998. Can we access it? You'll need a court order since the will is currently in probate and contested. But, she paused, there's something you should know. Someone else accessed that box recently. My heart stopped. When? March 20th, 5 days after the will you mentioned was signed. Who accessed it? Linda checked her screen. According to our records, it was Mr. Mitchell himself. My father was alive in March. That's possible. Yes, but, she frowned. This is unusual. The access was logged at 3:47 p.m. But according to our security footage timestamp, the person who accessed the box was only in the vault for 4 minutes. Most people spend at least 10 to 15 minutes if they're retrieving or storing documents. Can I see the security footage? Not without a court order, but if there's suspected fraud, I can flag this for our security department. Marcus jumped in. Ma'am, we believe someone may have impersonated Mr. Mitchell to access that box and remove or alter his original will. This could be bank fraud and identity theft. Linda's expression hardened. If that's true, we take that very seriously. Let me make some calls. 2 hours later, we were sitting in a bank conference room with Linda Torres, the bank's head of security, and their legal counsel. They played the security footage from March 20th. The video showed someone entering the vault, average height, wearing a baseball cap, sunglasses, and a medical mask, not unusual given recent years, but convenient for hiding a face. The person went to box 447, used a key, opened it, removed something, and left. Can you zoom in? Marcus asked. They did. The person's hands were visible. Slender, feminine, manicured nails. That's not my father, I said. That's a woman. But the bombshell came next. There's more, Linda said. This person didn't just access the vault. They also went to the customer service desk 30 minutes earlier. She played another clip. It showed the same person, baseball cap, sunglasses, mask, approaching the desk. The person handed something to the teller, who typed on her computer, then handed over a key. What was that? Marcus asked. A replacement key request, Linda said. The person claimed they'd lost their safety deposit key. They provided ID and answered security questions. Our teller, following protocol, issued a replacement key. So they impersonated my father to get a key, then used that key to access his box and remove his real will. That's what it looks like. Marcus leaned forward. Can you zoom in on the ID they showed? They did. The footage was grainy, but you could make out the driver's license. My father's photo, his name. But something was off. The license looks fake, the security chief said. The hologram isn't reflecting light correctly. It's a decent forgery, but it's not real. And you have footage of someone using this fake ID to access a safety deposit box and remove documents. Yes. Marcus smiled. That's bank fraud, identity theft, and theft of estate documents. We need to know who that person is. Linda pulled up another angle. This one showed the person from behind as they left the bank. The baseball cap had shifted slightly, exposing dark brown hair. And when they pushed open the door, the mask slipped down for just a second. The face was partially visible. Marcus paused the video, enhanced the image. It was Vanessa. Marcus moved fast. He filed an emergency motion with the probate court, attaching the bank security footage, the forensic document examiner's preliminary findings, and witness statements from Patricia Reeves. The motion requested suspension of probate proceedings, criminal investigation into will forgery and bank fraud, access to the safety deposit box to recover the original will, if it still existed. The judge granted the motion within 48 hours. Police detectives were assigned to the case. They obtained a warrant for Vanessa's financial records, phone records, and security footage from her apartment building. What they found buried her. On March 14th, Vanessa had texted her cousin David, "Need you tomorrow. $5 K if you play along. Notary thing. 1 hour max." On March 19th, she texted an unknown number. "Got the key. Picking up the package tomorrow. Need the cleanest forgery you've ever done. That unknown number belonged to a man named Victor Salinas, a known document forger with 2 prior convictions. Police arrested Victor. He flipped immediately in exchange for a lighter sentence. Vanessa hired me to forge a will, he confessed. She brought me the original, said she'd taken it from a safety deposit box, told me to copy the old man's signature exactly, change the beneficiary to her name, backdate it to March, and make it look legit. She paid me 12 grand. Where's the original will? She burned it right in front of me, said she didn't want any evidence. But Victor had kept something, a photograph of the original will before he destroyed it. Insurance, in case Vanessa ever tried to double-cross him. The original will, dated 2 years prior, left everything to me. Every asset, every share of the business, everything. Exactly what my father had always promised. The police arrested Vanessa at her apartment, my father's former house, which she'd already moved into. She tried to claim it was all a misunderstanding, that my father had wanted her to have the estate, that I was lying out of jealousy. Then they showed her the bank footage, the texts, Victor's confession, the photograph of the real will. She stopped talking and asked for a lawyer. The criminal trial took 6 months. Vanessa was charged with forgery, fraud, identity theft, grand theft, perjury. The evidence was overwhelming. The jury convicted her on all counts in less than 3 hours. The judge sentenced her to 8 years in prison. Ms. Mitchell, the judge said, you exploited the death of a man who'd shown you nothing but contempt, rightfully so, as it turns out, to steal from his grieving son. You forged documents, impersonated a dead man, lied under oath, and destroyed evidence. Your actions were calculated, deliberate, and cruel. 8 years. No parole eligibility for 4. Vanessa's face was blank, empty. She was led away in handcuffs. The probate court validated my father's original will. I inherited everything, as he'd always intended. It's been 14 months since my father died, 10 months since Vanessa was convicted. Here's where everyone stands now. Me, I own Mitchell Construction, fully. I've expanded the business, hired 2 new project managers, and we're on track to hit 20 million in revenue this year. I moved into my father's house, my house now, kept his office exactly how he left it. Sometimes I sit in there and talk to him, tell him about the business, about how I'm making him proud. I'm dating someone new, an architect I met through work. She never knew Vanessa, never knew the drama. She just knows me now, and she thinks I'm doing okay. Vanessa, she's in Greenfield Correctional Facility, medium security. She'll be eligible for parole in 3 years. Her attorney sent a letter last month asking if I'd consider writing a letter of support for early parole. I threw it away. Victor Salinas got 2 years for his cooperation. He's already out, back to forging documents, probably. Some people never learn. David Chen, Vanessa's cousin who witnessed the fake will, got 18 months for conspiracy to commit fraud. He's appealing. It won't help. Patricia Reeves, the notary, wasn't charged. She'd acted in good faith, didn't know she was part of a fraud, but her notary license was suspended for failing to properly verify identity. She lost her job. I feel bad about that, but she should have been more careful. My father's estate attorney, Gerald Hampton, apologized profusely. He'd had no reason to doubt the will's authenticity. It was properly notarized, properly executed. He couldn't have known. I don't blame him. The hardest part wasn't the trial or the investigation. It was realizing how much Vanessa hated me, enough to desecrate my father's death, enough to forge documents in his name, enough to spit on his grave, metaphorically and literally, since she visited his burial site during the brief time she thought she'd won. My father used to say, "People show you who they are when they think they've already won." Vanessa showed me exactly who she was. A woman so consumed by greed and spite that she'd commit multiple felonies, destroy evidence, and impersonate a dead man, all for money. But here's what she didn't count on. My father was smarter than her. He kept his real will in a place she had to physically break into, creating evidence of her crime. The bank had security cameras, creating a permanent record of her fraud. And I had the resources and determination to fight, to hire the right lawyers, to demand the truth. She gambled that I'd be too grief-stricken to fight, that I'd accept the will reading and move on. She was wrong. Last month, I visited my father's grave, brought his favorite whiskey, Maker's Mark, and poured a little on the headstone. "We got her, Dad, just like you would have wanted. She's in prison, the business is thriving, and everything you built is exactly where you wanted it, with me." I swear I felt him smile. Vanessa sent me one letter from prison. It arrived 3 months ago. I almost didn't open it. It said, "I'm sorry, I was desperate. I made terrible choices. I hope someday you can forgive me." I wrote back, one sentence, "You're right, you did make terrible choices, and no, I won't." Some people don't deserve forgiveness. They deserve consequences. And Vanessa got exactly what she earned. My father taught me a lot of things: how to run a business, how to treat people with respect, how to build something that lasts. But the most important lesson he ever taught me was this: when someone shows you who they really are, believe them and act accordingly. Vanessa showed me who she was. I believed her, and I acted. Now she's in prison, and I'm running a multi-million-dollar company, living in the house my father built, continuing the legacy he created. Justice isn't always fast, but when it comes, it's worth the wait. So here's my question for you. Should I have written back to Vanessa's apology letter, or was I right to shut the door completely? Drop your answer below. Type forgive if you think she deserved a second chance, or no mercy if you think I did the right thing. And if you've ever dealt with someone trying to steal your inheritance or forge documents to screw you over, share your story in the comments. You're not alone. That's exactly why this channel exists. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Click the notification bell so you don't miss next week's story. How my business partner tried to force me out of my own company using a fake lawsuit, and the evidence that made him drop everything and disappear. See you then, and remember, protect what's yours, document everything, and never underestimate how far some people will go to take what isn't theirs.